Jefferson Robbins for NCWLIFE. There aren't that many competitive races on the ballot in November, but some of them are in interesting positions, including the one for position 1 on the Chelan-Douglas Regional Port Authority Board. Mike Mackey is competing against the incumbent, Jim Huffman, for that seat, and Mike Mackey joins me now. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Mike? Introduce yourself to me as if I were a new voter.
Well, I would start by saying my name is Mike Mackey. I live in East WENATCHEE. I've lived in this valley and worked in this valley and in the Chelan Valley for 40 years. I've had multitude of exciting things to do and careers, I guess, all piled up one on top of the other. My life started in Wyoming. I was I worked on some ranches in Wyoming when I was going to school, and I enjoyed that a lot. And I went to the University of Wyoming when I graduated from high school, same high school never mind. I forget the guy's name. Anyway, the high school's been there forever. And I graduated from that, went to the University of Wyoming, got a degree in range management and natural resources. I took that degree, worked for the Bureau of Land Management for a few years, where I learned a lot about fire and fire management. Was one of the things that my duties as a employee. I transferred from there to Okanagan County with the Soil Conservation Service, and I worked as a range con in Okanagan County with a lot of the ranchers. I worked with a lot of the Colville folks up on the Colville Indian Reservation. That was a good experience. I enjoyed working with those folks. I then got an opportunity to transfer back down to Lakeview, Oregon, where I was a division group, or not a division, but a district conservationist. And I worked in one of the biggest counties in the state of Oregon. Lots of rangeland. I was there for about 4 years or so and moved back up here and bought a hardware store in Chelan. My wife and I ran that hardware store for 18 years. It was Mackey's. Actually, it started out as a coast to coast, and it was a franchise. Did that for a while, and all the time I was in Chelan, I was on every board you can think of. I was Chamber of Commerce, Park Board, any commission or any committee that was put together. I was perfectly willing to be part of that. I also talked with Bonnie Cannon, who was the port commissioner at that time. Was not well. She was ill, and I visited with her and asked her if it'd be okay if she wasn't going to run. I said I would certainly like to, and she says that's the way we want it. I would love to have you do that. So I ran and won. So I was a port commissioner of Port of Chelan County for 12 years. I represented the Chelan area, which was District 3.
And this was before the Chelan County Port District and the Douglas County Port District united into one entity.
Yes, that's true. During my tenure there, the only thing we had in common was Pangborn Airport. And we had some financial issues to deal with, I guess you would say. Who's going to pay what and how much are they going to pay and whatnot. And Douglas County was struggling. So Chelan picked up the lion's share of what needed to be done there. And we did it willingly because the population in the Chelan County was greater, and you could justify the fact that they were using the airport as much as anybody else. So that was the only thing that we had together. We talked many times about what were we going to do to try to give Douglas County a lift and help it get started economically. And unfortunately, I was bumped. I lost an election, and I went 12 years without being a port commissioner, but I stayed in touch and kept listening to what was going on, tried to go to some meetings, keep track of things, and I was very encouraged when both the ports decided to merge. And it's a really good situation. I mean, it put everybody on a level playing field. Everybody is working together. They cut administrative costs quite a bit so that they were able to do some financial things that brought Douglas County along a little better. So I'm excited for the fact that they are the way they are. They're working much better. They've got more room to expand, and they've as a voice of 6. When you go to the legislature, you've got 6 commissioners that agree on something, that are pushing for something that helps the entire valley. That river really is just a line in the sand. We live on both sides of the river. You go shopping on either side. You transfer to either side to go see a doctor or a dentist or whatever you're going to do. But the line is blurred. And so for that reason, I'm really happy that the 2 ports are together.
So what led you to want to rejoin the commission, Mike, after a number of years and after that formation of a new entity?
Well, to tell you the truth, I never stopped wanting to be a port commissioner. My circumstances when I was in Chelan changed. My wife and I were getting close to retirement, and we always knew when we retired we were going to move down here. It was either going to be in Chelan County down in WENATCHEE area or Douglas County in East Wenatchee area. Well, we landed in East Wenatchee, and that gave me an opportunity to look at possibly being a Douglas County Port Commissioner. The incumbent I've known Jim for years. He's a great guy. Worked with him on the only thing was the airport. We were on the airport board together, and we worked well together. He's been a port commissioner since 1994, and you think about 30 years of the same thing, and you look for a different outcome, but it's really not there. So I just felt like it was time for new ideas, for fresh blood, for somebody that understood the process, that can work, that can hit the ground running, that has a good relationship with all the legislators. I mean, I worked for Keith Gaynor for 11 years. I helped Mike Steele with his first campaign. I worked with Linda Parlett, worked with the people in Washington, D.C., both of our senators. So I feel comfortable, and I feel like I can do some good and be a progressive person for the port. And that's the only, it's the district I live in, and I have to run in that district. So that's how that came up. But other than that, I just think I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready.
What issues do you foresee facing the Port Authority, say in the next 4 years if you were elected? What do you think they're going to have to tackle?
Well, the biggest one is commercial air service. And I'm telling you that we're getting dumped on when it comes to that. We got short end of the stick. We've got an airport out there that will hold 3 737s on the tarmac. We're repaving the runway. I mean, the thing is plenty long for 737s to land, to take off, whatever they need to do. We've got a great terminal. We've got a great GA terminal. Everything is state of the art as far as the lighting, the de-icing, you name it. The way the guys remove snow, you couldn't find a better crew than they have out at the airport. Those guys are great. They pump gas like a champ. Everybody gets the service that they need, and they get a lot of good service. So I think we need to really put the pressure on some of these other airlines and see what we can do. And it's not like they haven't already done that. I can tell you that the port commissioners they're frustrated with the fact that some of these airlines won't look at us. It's a matter of money for them. And so we have to figure out how, without giving away the farm, how we can make it economically feasible for them to test our airport, to test what we've got going. When we had 4 flights, majority of them were 80% enplanement. It doesn't get any better than that.
And it's true that a lot of people, when they think about Pangborn, they think about it's a great resource, it's a great service. I wish it flew more often, or I wish I could fly to other points out of Pangborn.
Exactly, and I'm one of those people, because I like to travel as well. But I refuse to go to Seattle. If I can't catch a flight here, I will go to Pasco because I have a son that lives there. But Pasco is really, that's the airport, the regional airport that has taken off. And as a regional airport, we've got Chelan, Douglas, Grant counties to work with. And we've got a population in that area that really could support a lot more airlines. And we'll see what happens. I don't want to say this one or that one would be here, but they have talked to every airline you can imagine, and then there's guys that go, the port guys that go to a couple of different events that the airlines are all lined up in booths, and they talk to each and every one of them, tell them what we have to offer, and they don't get a lot of results. So we just have to think that one through and see what we can do about that. But that's a high priority for me.
One of a Port Authority's privileges under the law is the ability to establish a TIF district, a tax increment financing district. And this is something that this Port Authority has done or tried to do in both counties. Can you explain a little bit about TIF districts and how they operate to your understanding?
Well, first of all, you can only have two TIF districts, for instance, with a port. They can only have two. And there's a certain size that they can be, I understand. They do not tap into any of the current taxes that are paid. They only tap into what comes after they put the TIF district in place, so that if there's a building here that's $500,000 and it's taxed at that rate, if they put another story on that and it's reassessed at $600,000, then that extra $100,000 is taxed. That little bit goes to the TIF district. What happens with that is that when you generate a TIF district, you've got to generate a series of projects that can be allowed in that district. You don't do them all. You pick and choose. You prioritize. And 9 times out of 10, it's infrastructure. And that really is the heavy hitter when it comes to a TIF district. Once you put your infrastructure in place, then you can count on other private sector coming in and building something. And because they don't have to do all this other stuff, which is millions of dollars worth of activity. So what it does is it helps to move the development along for most of the time for larger developments like industry. I can give you an example of which I think would have fit really well under a TIF district. When I was a port commissioner, and we bought Cashmere Mill Site, we bought Peshastin Mill Site. Both pieces of property would have just sit there if nobody had bought them. They were messed up with oil, and they had so much cleanup that they needed to do. So the port bought that, and we ended up finding a good friendship with the Department of Ecology and a fund that we could use for cleanup, a super fund to clean it all up. Well, it's cleaned up, and now it's on the tax rolls. Where if you'd asked private sector to do that, that would still be sitting there. So the same with Cashmere. We cleaned it up. There's something in there. There's nice roads there. It's a piece of property that you can call to be proud of. It's something you can be very proud of, and people will develop that. End of Pangborn or end of Odabashan Bridge. How many years have we talked at different times with different groups about what we're going to do at the end of Odabashan Bridge and with all that property? At the
WENATCHEE landing site.
Yes. What are we going to do with that? Well, for 30 years we've talked about it. Finally, I think there's going to be a TIF there. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to put the infrastructure in. When they put the infrastructure in, then stand back and watch what happens.
And in the creation of a TIF district, as I understand it, the captured property tax that goes into that TIF district is a hedge against that kind of infrastructure development. That's what it goes to pay for.
Correct. Right. Yeah, and all the things on that list, you can't go outside and say, we want to do this. No, if it's not on the list, it's not going to happen. So you have to be, if you're partnering with somebody, like we have, like the port has, they've gone to him and said, "What's your priorities? Let's get those on the list as well, so that everybody can help develop this thing." So that, to me, is a TIF district does not really. It might be a little bit of a deterrent at first when you don't understand how it works, but once you figure out how it works, it's a good tool to use, and it's something that I would support. And I've said that on my website.
So Chelan County right now is sort of at cross purposes with the Chelan-Douglas Regional Port over TIF district, specifically the one proposed for the Malaga area. Is, for instance, that district, establishing a district there, is that the best use of the port's TIF authority? As you say, it can only be done twice.
I can't answer that question. To tell you the truth, I haven't been in on the conversations, and I'm sure those were executive sessions conversations. And I would say that apparently they feel it is. They have taken the steps to go to the state and get it approved. Sometime in November, they will take the final vote on it. I don't. I know I've seen some of the things that are on the list, and it's infrastructure. I mean, it's just continued development, and you can't do any development. A piece of property just sits there, and if you expect generic development, you're having a pipe dream, because people don't want to spend that kind of money today. If a guy moves his business from Seattle or from San Francisco or wherever it is, he doesn't want to move it in 3 years. He wants to move it tomorrow. And so you've got to have the infrastructure in place, and sometimes you have to build the building. But that's how we got Yahoo into the Confluence Technology Center. We built the building, we put everything in place, then we went to California, and we talked with those folks. There must have been 35, 40 people in the room. We showed them all of the benefits of living in Chelan County and in this area. We asked the question when we got done with all of that, well, who would like to move to Chelan County? And there was 35, 40% of them raised their hand. They were ready to go tomorrow. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing you have to do. You've got to work with folks. It takes a long time to do the job, but it's very much worth it.
The business of the port is economic development for the area that it serves. And we've talked a little bit about Pangborn and what you'd like to see happen there. Are there other areas where you think the port has projects or proposals that it should be addressing, but right now it isn't addressing those with the kind of energy that you'd like to see?
Boy. Do you know, this is probably the busiest I've ever seen the port, and that's a very hard question to answer. I can guarantee you the port operates under RCW 53. That basically says what you can do, not what you, or I think what you can do. And it's kind of limited as far as economic development goes, and we don't want to stretch that too much. So, you know, I would like to see a little more emphasis on some of the smaller communities. I believe they pay taxes as well. When I was a port commissioner in Chelan, one of the things I did that I felt was good for Manson and here in WENATCHEE and in Chelan, was I worked with them on the marinas, which is something we can do. We helped them build their marinas. We gave them some seed money to go after RCW or RCI meeting money. So there's a possibility that maybe we could do a little more for the outlying communities, which I know it's hard to find, because a lot of those communities really don't want to grow much. They like it the way they are. They just want to make sure that they're economically solvent. And I think we should maybe talk to them a little more and ask them about those things. When I was on the Transportation Council, they were always at the meeting or represented at the meeting. And so that was one way we could help was with road development and repaving and chip sealing and things of that nature, to make sure that they had the funds that the state offered up so that they were in the mix.
Mike, can you think of anything that I didn't ask about, or that you think the viewers should know about your candidacy or about what you'd like to do for the port?
Well, I'd like to be a very active member of the port, that's for sure. I told the folks last night when I was visiting with them that you're not going to see any grass grow under my feet. I'm very busy. I'm a board member of the Chelan-Douglas Land Trust. I think that's one of the most fantastic things this valley could ever have, and it needs to be coveted. As far as the port goes, I definitely have some things I want to work on, and one of them's the airport. I enjoy going to DC. I enjoy going to Olympia and lobbying for good jobs that we do here for the funding to get them done, so that there isn't a burden on the taxpayer. Right now, taxpayers they're doing their best. We don't need to put a squeeze on them any more than we have to, which I don't think the port would ever do. I think that would be a poison pill for them. So to me, I need to be very active. I need to be part of the group. I need to listen to the people of the community. And if there's things they want to see, as long as it's legal and we can get it done under RCW 53, I would be happy to work with them for it. All they got to do is let me know.
Well, Mike Mackey, candidate for position 1 on the Chelan-Douglas Regional Port Authority. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
I appreciate you visiting with me, and I'd certainly appreciate the help of the community and their vote.
You're watching the NCWLIFE channel.